Secret searches of the Penn Biden Center revealed from what was supposedly one of the most transparent administrations ever. They told us everything about this scandal, except they didn't. And every day that goes by, more and more drips out. This story comes over from CBS, and they tell us the following. Published on January 31st at 10:58 a.m. They write, the FBI searched the Penn Biden Center in mid-November. This was the first location where the documents were found. Remember, the documents were originally found back on November 2nd, supposedly by one of Biden's lawyers. We still don't know exactly who that person was. But then it got turned over to the DOJ, and there were several subsequent things that happened. We had another batch of documents discovered in December. We didn't learn about any of this until after the midterm elections in November 8th, after the change of the year, until Karine Jean-Pierre finally revealed it to us after CBS, this same news entity, published the story. But now we learn more. From Washington, the FBI searched the Penn Biden offices in mid-November. This comes from two sources familiar with the investigation. Lawyers originally found the documents in November. It's not clear whether FBI personnel found any additional classified or presidential material during the mid-November sweep, right? So we don't know. We don't know if they found anything. And there was additional searching going on at this same time at the Wilmington residence, okay? We have parallel tracks now on our timeline that we have to map out. Because they were prosecuting or investigating the Penn Biden Center, they didn't search the Wilmington residence until very recently in January of this year. Two sources told CBS News that the search was conducted with the cooperation of Biden's representatives, no search warrant. Biden used the sixth floor office space near the Capitol periodically. FBI searched the think tank. It was not previously disclosed by the White House. They've been telling us that they've been transparent. Karine Jean-Pierre has said, look, we've been transparent about this. The president takes these documents seriously. If you have any questions about this, I refer you to the White House counsel. Like a broken record on repeat for the last several weeks. Mr. Biden's personal lawyers or the DOJ, nobody disclosed it to any of us. Again, another leak from CBS reveals the truth. A January 14th statement from the president's personal attorney, Bob Bauer, referred to the government conducting, quote, its inquiry, including taking possession of documents surrounding material for further review and context. When the FBI conducted a consensual search of Biden's home in Wilmington this month, January 20th, Bauer and the White House announced it the following day. Oh, that's weird. So we have sort of a standard procedure in this case. When the FBI searched Wilmington, Biden's lawyers told us the day after, which is what they should have done from the very beginning, right? Tell us the day after. Mike Pence found documents, told us, published the letter, came out the next day. We talked about this yesterday on the show, and he said, I accept responsibility for this, right? The buck stops with me. So why didn't Bauer in the White House, if they announced the January 20th search, why didn't they also announce the mid-November search? Oh, that's right, because they were covering it up. Obviously, personal attorneys from Biden declined to comment. He's the sitting president, and that's just what they have been getting away with for several years, or for several weeks now, months now. The Justice Department and the FBI declined to comment. White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield responded to questions about the FBI search. She said, that's not something I can comment on. The whole executive branch is force fielding the whole situation. She said, that's something you're going to have to talk to the Justice Department about. She's sort of like the store brand Karine Jean-Pierre. What I can say is that we have been cooperative and transparent at the outset. No, you haven't. And in fact, this article that is quoting you, Kate, is explaining that. It says that nobody's commenting on that, so not transparent there. And this was not previously disclosed by the White House. Okay, so somebody should reference this to Miss Kate Bedingfield and tell her. Transparency means being transparent and openly disclosing things. You have not done that in this case, so you don't get to continue to say that. We put multiple statements from the president's personal attorney describing the process and being clear that the president takes this seriously. Yeah, it's like one robot, just move the chips around. In all, federal authorities have recovered between 25 and 30 documents marked classified. And we don't even know if that's the truth, right? Because every time we get a statement, they say, well, the last theory was that they were boxes containing documents, right? Or a document might have multiple pages in it. Or it might be a binder full of documents. The material includes classified items and other items from the presidential and the Senate days. And when you're in the Senate and you're not on the Intelligence Committee, you're in a lower echelon of power and privilege. So you don't have the ability to just sort of walk out with documents. So the next question that we heard from Ted Cruz and others was, how did Biden leave with the documents? Lawyers for Biden and the DOJ agreed on the parameters of the January 20th search. We don't know anything about the mid-November search. FBI had full access to everything. Special counsel was appointed. We know that date. Trump has claimed the material. All right, so you have the battle on this back and forth. Now, this is what we learn. And so we got two big questions, right? One is obviously who initiated those searches. And I have a question about like we still have questions about the original search on November 2nd. What prompted that? Why did those lawyers just start rummaging around in a very specific area that just happened to find documents just pop up out of nowhere? Like a jack in the box, confidential document. And then they lied about it, right? By omission. They didn't tell us about any of it. They've been promising us transparency, but they neglected to tell us about another mid-November search, right? They're dripping this stuff out. This is not a mistake. This is intentional. Rather than telling us all of this stuff was going on behind the scenes, they want to piecemeal it so it doesn't look as bad. Now, it is bad. It's a big, big problem. And in fact, Congress is now starting to speak up. We've already played clips here of Senators Mark Warner, who's a Democrat, and Marco Rubio, who's a Republican, who have been up in arms about this, saying that the Intelligence Committee in the Senate has constitutional obligations to engage in oversight over the intelligence apparatus. I wish they actually did that. I wish there was actual oversight over the FBI, over the CIA, right, over DHS, over all of these institutions. I would love to see it. Actual oversight by Democrats. I'd be okay with that. Not Adam Schiff, okay? Not Republicans like Liz Cheney, who are basically extensions of the intelligence apparatus. I'd like real, actual oversight. And I don't care who does it, as long as it's actual accountability and transparency and justice. Mitch McConnell would like to see some accountability too. He wants to see the documents. And a lot of the time on this channel, we listen to Mitch, and he's kind of like a turtle. He's very slow, doesn't say anything. We're constantly waiting for his opinion. You know, he's a very powerful dude. He's been in government, I think, as long as Joe Biden. He just hasn't ascended to the presidency yet. We'll see. So he is somebody we want to hear from on a whole range of issues, and he very regularly opines, especially on controversial stuff. He'd rather talk about, flooding. But he got asked about the Biden documents today. You're going to see him fired up a little bit. You're going to see him use statements like reasonable, and you're going to hear words from him, and you're going to know, Mitch McConnell's pissed right now. So put the kids to bed. If they don't want to see cocaine Mitch, cocained out. Do you see that sniff? Watch this. See?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. The mind-boggling pace of the Senate at the beginning of this year is certainly astonishing. I don't think I've ever seen a slower beginning at the start of a new Congress in the Senate. But we're not in the majority, and so I'll let Senator Schumer, when he comes back, answer that question.
Wow.
With regard to the...
All right, so for those of you who don't know, he just blasted Schumer on that, right? The Democrats. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. But it's out of control. Now, that might sound like, pretty benevolent. It's kind of like, what did he just say? He kind of mumbled through his mouth. That's as fired up as Mitch gets, all right? This is level 10, and we're just warming up here. It's about to get rowdy.
Searches for classified documents. I think the bipartisan request of Chairman Warner and Vice Chairman Rubio is entirely reasonable.
Whoa.
What they're asking for here would not interfere with these ongoing criminal investigations.
Whoa.
And I hope the administration will come up with a better answer.
Whoa.
No, which is apparently what both the chairman and the vice chairman were told recently.
You see her, and she's nodding her head. She knows that Mitch is pissed right now. Apparently, the White House just, there was a very reasonable request that was made, and the answer was no. And it's so insane that even this senator is like, yeah, it's true. There's going to be a murder in Congress if we don't rectify this situation.
What they're asking for here would not interfere with these ongoing criminal investigations.
No, sir. No, it wouldn't.
And I hope the administration will come up with a better answer.
Me too.
No, which is apparently what both the chairman and the vice chairman were told recently. Their request to find out exactly what kind of documents were in improper custody seems to me squarely within their oversight mission on the Intel Committee, and I want to commend both of them for pursuing this in a bipartisan way.
Oh my gosh. Out of control. Out of control. Did you see that? Holy moly. That's Mitch McConnell. He's putting everybody on blast. Look at this hand gesture here. He says, he's explaining to all of us, this is squarely within their jurisdiction. And I hope we can figure this out.
Were in improper custody seems to me squarely within their oversight mission on the Intel Committee, and I want to commend both of them for pursuing this in a bipartisan way.
Brutal, savage, man, brutal. Murders all over the place. All right, so now okay, you can bring the kids back. Absolutely out of control. Cocaine Mitch was coked out hardcore, and I told you it was going to be crazy. Like level 11. You're not going to see anything else like that recently. So, all right, let's brace ourselves, bring ourselves back down to level. All right, now let's turn our attention over to Mr. Comer. Comer made an appearance on with Fox News, and he is, of course, leading the Oversight Committee. We've got Jim Jordan, who's on the Judiciary Committee. We have Cocaine Mitch in the Senate, and we've got James Comer on Oversight. And he is leading the charge. We've read so many letters from James Comer over the last couple days. It's been really enjoyable. And there's going to be a lot more coming because he's just getting warmed up. Here he is on Fox and Friends or Fox News, and he's talking about exactly what they're working on over there on the Oversight Committee. Let's check in.
We're bringing in the National Archives tomorrow for a transcribed interview. We're going to ask all of these questions, and hopefully we'll have some answers for the American people very soon.
Is it good? That's the head librarian, the National Archives. They're coming in for that transcribed interview. Remember, we were reading the letters back and forth. We read his letter to them, and we read her letter back to us. Deborah Steidel-Wall, who said that we're not really going to be cooperative all that much. Evidently, they're sitting down and they're doing this interview.
Normal for VPs to take their notebooks with them when they leave office?
No, nothing that Joe Biden's done with respect to mishandling these classified documents is normal. Take into consideration that he's also being investigated for influence peddling with our adversaries around the world. And it's even more concerning. Look, more information comes out every day where his son, especially, as well as his two brothers, have had shady business dealings with our adversaries around the world. And part of what they would do when they would make a pitch to these shady characters in these foreign countries is prove to them that they actually had direct access to their brother and that they had direct access to people at the highest levels of our federal government. So when we learned that Joe Biden had classified documents strode all over the place and that Hunter Biden especially lived in his house where he had those classified documents, we became extra concerned. And that's why this investigation is of the utmost importance for the United States Congress as well as the American people.
That gets us to...
There's another story that is sort of percolating, that there may be this notebook problem that Joe Biden has as well. So, an idea is that you have the classified documents, they're marked classified, they're stuff that maybe you check out and you return back, but they contain information, right? The document itself, yeah, it's a container for information. The information in there is very valuable. So if you take a look at the classified materials and then transcribe them into a notebook that doesn't have classified materials written on there, that's a problem, right? Because now you have the inability to have sort of chain of custody over that particular information, not necessarily the document. So there's a theory that Joe Biden had notebooks that maybe were not classified documents, but they contained classified information because this was all just transcribed, or it was summaries from the classified materials. Pretty big problem there. And as we've already covered here on this channel, there's been several stories and several bits and pieces where we've seen emails from Hunter Biden going over to some very interesting characters where he's sort of summarizing reports that seem like they came from intelligence briefings, right? That's not me saying that. That is Ron Johnson.
Joe Biden, the laptop happens to contain a significant amount of evidence that would not only implicate the Biden family in influence peddling, but it would also implicate the President of the United States. We want to have this hearing to begin with to show the American people what evidence is on the laptop. We want to show the American people that the federal government tried to suppress this story, that the FBI, according to the Twitter files, and these 3 former Twitter employees are going to have an opportunity to explain exactly what happened.
Beautiful.
Came in and misled big tech, telling them that this was Russian disinformation. Now, I think it's no secret, we've heard this from Elon Musk, that the overwhelming majority of Twitter employees, like all big tech employees, are overwhelmingly liberal, therefore they're biased. But my problem isn't as much with big tech as it is with the federal government. Why was the federal government trying to suppress this story? And we want to go into the details of the laptop. But we've heard CBS, they came out and said that they did a forensic audit and that the contents on the laptop are authentic. We know that several other networks like CNN are finally getting on board expressing concern about what's on the laptop. So we're starting from the very beginning with this first hearing, which is the laptop. We're going to prove that the government tried to cover this up from day one. Then we're going to proceed. We'll bring in some of the associates of the Biden family influence peddling schemes, and we'll keep going to where we bring in people from the government to see what role exactly the president played in this influence peddling.
And influence peddling is a very interesting phrase, an interesting scheme. And we're going to see what Comer is able to dig up, because it does feel like the government is colluding or covering some of this stuff up, including the Department of the Treasury. We see over from Bloomberg that they are denying access to the Hunter docs, and the House of Representatives is responding. So a letter just got fired back from another congressperson, and he says, all right, well, we're coming after you then, IRS. We're going to try to identify whistleblowers from you. We'll dig into all of that right after we talk about survival food and survival gear, because it's very good to be prepared. As you know, a food shortage could be coming, even in the United States. We've got drought, inflation, economic policies, war. America's food supply is near its breaking point. And that's why survival food is more important now than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years, super survival food, hand-packed right in family-owned facilities in the United States, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water resistant, they stack easily. Different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this 90-day food supply that you can go grab right now. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on anything over $97. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. And so go to 4patriots.com, use code Robert to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com, and start building your own stockpile today, my friends. All right. And let's check out now what is happening with Treasury, because the Department of Treasury is telling us the GOP is not getting access to anything. They tell us, published on January 25th, that the request from Republicans for Hunter Biden's records is denied. The U.S. Treasury Department refused to provide House Republicans any suspicious activity reports. Those are called SARs, that it may have on foreign banking and other business transactions by Hunter Biden. Interesting, huh? Jonathan Davidson, Treasury's legislative affairs chief, told House Oversight Committee James Comer in a letter that he needs more details about why the panel is seeking highly sensitive information. Comer sent a letter over to them saying that they need the SARs used by banks to flag what are dubious transactions as part of his panel's probe into investigating whether the president's son was involved in overseas business dealings. Said that without acknowledging whether the reports exist, said that this is improper disclosure and it could undermine the executive branch's ability to do their duties. Comer responded, and after receiving more details, they said, well, send us more information and Treasury will then make determinations about how to accommodate your requests while balancing against the executive branch interests. So, the executive branch and the Department of Treasury, right, they're one, right? The Department of Treasury and it's all under the executive branch. And so the executive branch is saying, okay, well, if you need the IRS, if you need these things to be investigated, we have to weigh our needs against the legislative needs. And we're going to, this is checks and balances in action. The problem is you've got a very, very interesting conflict of interest here when the president and his son are the subject of the investigation. They can stonewall that pretty well, and they can put, the guards up, the force field up, and just blame it on partisan politics. Comer said the panel is going to continue to request the reports, and they will use the power of the gavel to get them if needed. And it's going to continue to go forward. So we'll follow, of course. But the House of Representatives is already fighting back in a fun way. They sent this letter on the same day that story was published, and they're writing to the IRS. They're writing as follows. They say, look, on January 25th, from the Committee on Ways and Means out of the U.S. House of Representatives, this letter goes over to the IRS, our favorite government agency. Love the IRS here. They do great work. We pay our taxes. Huge fans of the IRS. Huge fans. Love taxes. Definitely not theft of our life and livelihood. Anyways, they get a letter. So this comes out from Jason Smith, the chairman on Committee on Ways and Means. Says, Dear Acting Commissioner and IRS employees. Okay, so Congress is sending this to all the IRS employees out there who are definitely legitimate and have a totally legitimate job. The Committee on Ways and Means, they say, take its oversight responsibilities seriously. They say the top priorities in the 110th Congress is to promote transparency and accountability by conducting rigorous oversight of government agencies. And we're trying to identify fraud, waste, and abuse. Employees of the executive branch are undoubtedly individuals who possess the most knowledge about any misconduct occurring in their agencies. And Jason says, that's why I write to notify you and every single employee of the IRS about a very new tool that we have now launched called the IRS whistleblower portal, which is now active and available on our website. You can just go over to www.waysandmeans.house.gov/IRS whistleblower. This portal provides an avenue through which agency employees can now easily communicate and share information directly and confidentially with the committee about nefariousness in the IRS. We welcome and encourage IRS employees, and I do too, I encourage this too, to use this portal to share any information they believe should be brought to the attention of the committee as it conducts its oversight responsibilities. Such information can include concerns, information, or documents related to misconduct, maladministration, abuse, mistreatment of taxpayers, which is everybody on this show, whether you know it or not. Wrongdoing or any other agency matter an employee believes that deserves our attention. We request a copy of this letter be shared with all IRS employees to ensure they're notified of this portal and it's available for them to use. We ask that agency leadership confirm this letter has been shared with all agency employees by February 8th, 2023. So they want confirmation that the whole thing gets sent out. Can you let us know that you CC'd all the people at the IRS? That they got this. Just to make sure they know they can go over to the portal. And so let's take a look at the portal just so we can make sure that it works and it exists. Let's see here. Yeah, so it works. So you could go right over here to Ways and Means at house.gov and you could type in, Rob Govea, and you could say, my email is as follows. And you could say, the IRS has touched me inappropriately in my bank account, right? Something like that. And you could submit your file and you could get that all, taken care of. Now, only use it for legitimate complaints, obviously, right? Because we want them to not be inundated with, fake tips. But it is true, right? Anytime that somebody gets touched by the federal government in one way, shape, or form, it comes from one of two places. We know this. One, the criminal justice system, obviously. The other is the IRS, all right? Anytime they bring that doll out and they say, where'd the government touch you? And okay, that's a bad place. Who touched you? Who was it? You say, it was the IRS who did it. And it's really a scary thing. It's IRS or it's usually the Justice Department. It's one of the two. So Congress is taking it back to IRS. And if you happen to know anybody in the IRS who is a employee over there, right? This new tool exists. It's available over there on the website. And so they should use it regularly to report the nonsense that's going on. Now, Jim Jordan is also coming in hot. So there are going to be some additional hearings that are going to be percolating. The Hill tells us the House GOP is set to rev its engine with its first investigatory hearings. This story was published on January 31st of this year. They tell us that the Republicans are going to push their long-planned investigations into the spotlight this week. We're talking border, we're talking COVID, and we're going to see how the Republicans are using their new power. They're also going to be launching the Biden border crisis, part 1. That's going to be brought to us by Jim Jordan. The Oversight Committee is also going to be leading a lot of this. Kevin McCarthy's preparing. Next week, the Oversight Panel is going to hold a hearing on the U.S.-Mexico border. Also, former Twitter employees about the Hunter Biden hard drive. All of this is coming out. Oversight panel taking action on an extensive probe. We've got a revived oversight committees talking about probes of the virus, origin of the virus. Oversight, judiciary, intelligence committees, foreign affairs committees, all revisiting the Afghanistan withdrawal. Ultimate showstopper could be a select committee on the weaponization of government, which is hosting a church-style committee to investigate the intelligence committees. Oh my gosh, it's going to be like Christmas all year. Comer is hoping that these will have a sense of urgency and that will have a lot of eyeballs. Of course, we will be paying attention to those. So the pressure is on the White House. There's going to be a lot of response and sort of counter punches. We'll see. Let's ask ourselves what the White House has to say about this. Joe Biden, again, took very limited questions on his way over to his helicopter. One question was about the documents. Mr. President, what do you think about the special counsel? Do you think he responded to that?
If the special counsel who's starting to do ask for your testimony, would you give testimony?
Waves it away. Just waves it away. Anything about the special counsel? I don't know anything about that.
If the special counsel who's starting to do ask for your testimony, would you give testimony? Mr. President,
that's the answer. Okay, so when Karine Jean-Pierre comes out later in the week and says, no, the president takes questions on this. He stopped by the reporters the other day, right? That's what he says. Anything about the special counsel? I don't know anything about the special counsel. Get out of here. And we'll see how that holds up. I'm sure Karine's going to have her hands full. and we will continue to cover the Biden document saga. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.